All right, so one of the most complicated or nuanced conversations that I have is like, you have two schools of thought. Over here, and I was just on a business call, by the way, where one guy was saying, oh, how does this all work? You got people who go, do what you're good at. Take a personality test. If you're good at computer programming, spend all day doing computer programming. So that's most of the world. And then as everybody knows, I like to take the contrarian stand. So I'm like, I call bullshit on a lot of that. And so, or BS for people who don't like swearing. Cut that out. On this side, you have me only. And you now. You're honorary. By the way, we have Joel Brown from Australia. What part? I don't know.
From Perth, Western Australia.
Perth?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're in the middle of the most isolated city in the world, I've heard.
Yeah. We're a little bit behind.
Did you both meet? This is his lovely girlfriend
Fiance.
and fiance.
We met at a
No one
Halloween
told
party.
me fiance. I did not know that. I was able to guess his astrology, but I wasn't able to guess your marital status. So, you met in Perth?
In Perth at a Halloween party.
Okay. And we were having this discussion about meditation and stuff, because they do TM, transcendental meditation, every day.
Yeah, it should be twice a day, but sometimes we get by with once a day sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what is your take on, maybe I'll get your vote. Do you think you should do what you're naturally good at, or?
That's a great question. I think that there's this like common misconception that you only have one passion in your life.
Okay.
And it's not true. We all have multiple passions in our life, and it's okay that if you're given something a fair shot to drop it and then move on to something else that you feel you find more happiness and more success in.
So you're like Richard Branson. In Screw It, Let's Do It, he says, anytime something's not fun, I stop.
Yeah.
I move on. So he made a few $1 billion that way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as the old farm saying. And if people say that not on a farm, I feel like it's like not politically correct to say. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Whenever I'm skinning a cat, I try different ways. Right, okay, so I'll take the other side, the devil's advocate.
Okay.
Or I think the answer is like a nuanced answer. And most people in life, because of the cognitive bias called consistency, they can't handle nuanced answers. They're like, tell me, is it, should I be Republican or should I be Democrat? Most people can't handle going, well, on this issue, it seems like Republicans have it. On this issue, it seems like Democrats, right? Chris Brown talks about that. Not Chris Brown. Chris Rock. Chris Rock. I don't know Chris Brown. Chris Brown might not be big on politics. I don't know. Chris. I saw him driving his Lamborghini the other day, so if you're watching, you're one of our neighbors
big on,
here.
throwing gang signs apparently.
Throwing gang signs? That's good politics, man. Anyway, so if you're watching this, here's what I think the answer is in terms of nuance. First thing is, you got to understand you can't be egocentric about your life. So in life, if you're driving in a car and the door swings open, like you're sleeping against the door and you don't have your seatbelt on, and the door swings open, physics does not care about your personality type. So when that door opens at 60 miles an hour and you start falling out, it's not going to be like, what's your INFP Myers-Briggs thing? We'll decide if you're going to hit the ground. It's not. It's just like all mass falls to the ground according to gravity on planet Earth, basically. So that's kind of like in life, there's certain skills you must possess. In that case, you have to have the possession of the skill of quick reflexes, grab the seatbelt or whatever and pull yourself back in. If you don't have that, you die. It's that simple. So let's say you're starting a business. I hear this a lot in business. People are like, well, I'm not really a numbers person. Well, I'm like, well, then you're never going to really be a rich person, because all rich people in business know numbers. I'm telling you, I've never met a dude's like, I know nothing. I just do stuff and money's in my bank account. It's not true. Even Richard Branson, in that case, who is dyslexic, said at 16 years old, I realized, do I want to be a billionaire or rich? I got to learn numbers. And he overcame that. So it was not his natural skill to know numbers, but he became one of the wealthiest people in the world. So he realized the law of physics said gravity is a rule, and in that case in business, he realized numbers are a rule to speak the language of money. So In that case, it doesn't matter what your strengths are. If your end game goal is, let's say, being successful in business, you will have to do this irregardless of your natural strength. So I think the way to think about that is character. So like everybody in this room is natural. We know, like Mark is a health expert, testosterone increases courage. Dudes with a lot of testosterone sometimes have so much courage they go on a motorcycle 120 miles an hour, do a pop a wheelie and die, just disappear, just disintegrate when their motorcycle hits the ground, right? That's testosterone. So some people in this room right here, there's what, 15 people, 10 people? The amount of testosterone you're born with will give you natural courage. Some of you don't have natural courage, but if you want to survive the game of life, you have to overcome that. You can't go, oh, well, my type is the non-courage type. The non-courage human type is like the loser type. So if you don't want to be a loser, you have to have courage. Some people will come easy as hell, and some people it'll be very hard. But you can't use your personality type as a way to get out or as a scapegoat, right? Does that make kind of sense?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's excuses too, because everybody has like a handicap. Everyone has a disability, advantages.
For sure.
Excuses. Yeah.
Right, so excuses, exactly. So when it comes to the character traits, I'm gonna name them off the top of my head. Courage, perseverance, kindness when it comes time to be kind, warlikeness when it comes time to go to war, inquisitiveness, like all these like intangible traits that I talk about so much. I call them the 67 steps. You know, what's the first step, Ben?
Worth it, or
Right.
the billionaire's brain. And
Right, but what's the gist of it?
being worth it?
You have to be worth a damn. The only way you'll be worth a damn is to have, and everybody has to be equal. It's just like the car falling out. Every single person has to have the skill to pull themselves back in, or you will hit the ground at 60 miles an hour and you'll be dead. No one will be around to care about your personality type. So that's the first thing is, do I possess all, and like James was saying, that I call that the tool belt of life. There's no excuse for that, and if you naturally suck at it, that just means you, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had naturally big chest, naturally big biceps, teeny calves. He was like chicken leg man, right? Like 60 inch, or whatever, not 60, probably 50 inch chest or something like that. 21 inch biceps and little like, little muppet, little beaker legs. But he said he went to South Africa, he met his mentor, Reg Park. And Reg Park said, look man, put 500-pound weight on the calf machine. And he's like, no, this is gonna rupture my Achilles. And he's like, nope, we're gonna build up to 1,000 pounds and 1,000 reps. And he said in 2 months, or I don't know if it was 2 months, in a very short period of time, he got 2 inches on his calves, to the point people asked him if he had implants. So he didn't go, like in bodybuilding it's all about symmetry. You have to have symmetry in your personality and in your skill set too. And most people have no symmetry. They're like really creative, like they daydream. Joel Salton used to say, I used to be a daydreamer. I guess your astrology, Gemini's, my brother's a daydreamer. Who else is a natural daydreamer? Mine? You're not helping me. Okay, so Renee is a little bit, Renee is more wise and experienced, has kind of balanced that out, but I used to be like that. I was walking through a field with my first mentor, Joel Salton, this big farm, and I was kind of like da-da-da, and like the cows had gotten out, someone had left the gate open and they were running down the road, and it's a horrible thing when you look out the corner of your eye and there's like 200 cows booking it down the road. You're gonna have to chase them. And I was like, da, and of course Joel was like a bird, man. He was like an eagle. It's like, he'd be like, did you see that one screw out of place in the workshop? I'm like, I didn't even know there's screws in there. And he's like, yeah, one was off. And so he noticed, and afterwards he told me, he goes, you know, Ty, there's a time to smell the roses, and the time isn't now. I tell Ben that all the time. I'm like, Ben, I'll be like, be present right now. So that's a skill that you have to know. When to daydream, when not. And one of the skills, the hardest one is wisdom, man, and discretion. Like Aristotle said, to be angry is easy. To be angry at the right person at the right time for the right reason, for the right length of time, that's difficult. And most humans you'll ever bump into on that specific case, they either have a really bad temper or they have no temper and they're a pushover. You don't want to be either of those. You got to know, this is a time as Adam Carolla, I'll use a little swear word here. Hopefully no families are watching this, but Adam Carolla said to get around in the modern world, you have to have a carefully loaded fuck off in your gun. So it's like when somebody, is an asshole to you, you're like, fuck off! And he said, people will be like, oh. But yet, if you use that gun too much, you're gonna be a rude person. So the key is the character trait you have to develop, and some people are gonna be able to easily do this, and some people won't, is when do you pull it, and when do you not. I was reading Hillary Clinton's book somewhere here, and she's talking about not Rockefeller, Kissinger, and the top diplomats. They know when, because she was talking about how she was negotiating with Putin, and she's trying tools in her tool belt, trying to get this guy, basically, Russia, getting to the point now, it can be a Cold War all over again. She's trying to stop that, the world-changing things that affects the lives of billions of people, and Putin wasn't going for it. All her hard negotiations weren't working. So she said, I had a little mental tool and I said, tell me about your project to save tigers and wildlife, because he's really into saving tigers. And he was like, because they were like, it was like mean mugging each other. Like the one, she's the Secretary of State meeting up with this guy, and they're just going head to head, two world powers, and they're like arguing and like, you got to do this, and missile defense system over this. And finally, it wasn't working. So she had the wisdom and the discretion, which is an intangible skill you all have to have in tool belt. And she's like, pull out the nice guy thing or nice woman thing. And she said, what do you think about a tiger? And he was like, oh yeah. And he, come see my collection of, I don't know, not collection of tigers. That would be the opposite. Which is, come see my stuffed tigers. No, he didn't say that. And they spent 3 hours doing that, and it completely changed the whole dynamic of the whole company. Of the whole conversation. So my answer is, you have your strengths. To me, what your strengths really are is just telling me what you should be working on. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he did his strengths, weaknesses, it wasn't like my calves suck, so I'm destined to have chicken legs. It was really like, Arnold, you don't have to spend so many hours on your biceps, because if you do too much biceps, you're gonna have huge biceps and teeny legs. So it was more of a regime. So when you read your own personality test, think of it as a regime, like my workout regime. Like, okay, for me, I'm mostly extroverted, which means I derive power from talking in groups. Introverts derive power from what?
Being alone.
Competition, being alone. So I have to develop that part of my personality. Now, the flip side, because people go, wait a second, Tai, you're teaching this from this book called Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker. Somewhere here. Can never find my books when I need them. I need to be able to be like, we need like I guess we should turn this into a Kindle thing. We could just.
We need Siri to be like, okay,
Siri,
bringing out
float my
Managing
book to
Oneself.
me magically. So, in Peter F. Drucker says, one can only build upon strength. You can't build upon weakness. So, Peter F. Drucker, very smart guy, so I'm not going to discount what he says. What I believe that means is, what I was talking about is your everyday intangible things that you have to be good. Everyone here has to be good at all. On the flip side, what you build your career and 8 hours a day around, if you hate construction like me, I did construction for a while, I am not good with inanimate things. So building a whole life about being in the construction business would be foolish, because that's a style issue, right? It's not a character flaw to not be good at building a house. It is a character flaw to not know when you should be angry or not angry. That's a character flaw. All character flaws must be fixed. To not be patient when it's time to be patient is a character flaw. To be too patient when it's the time to make things happen, that's also a character flaw. So finding balance, but what you build your life around should be around strength. You built your life, or now you're building, it sounds like you like ideas, spreading good ideas,
Yeah.
and that's really what Addicted to Success is.
Yeah, I'm pretty much addicted to just learning as much as I can and then sharing that value with the world. Like that's what I'm here for.
Right. So that's your career. That's building on strength, like Peter Drucker says.
Yeah.
So you're on the right.
I think the thing is, actually, I was talking to the guys earlier, going back to what you were saying about Arnold Schwarzenegger and how he wanted to build his cars up. I think the thing is, like, you can have all the passion in the world that you want, and you can be as enthusiastic as you want, but you're not really going to get there unless you actually have a strategy.
Yes.
So you need to have a strategy in place, and when you do, you need to stick to it. And I think a lot of people don't do that.
Right.
They just think that if they have enough passion, they're going to get there, and it's not enough. It doesn't cut it.
Well, I talk about in the 67 steps. I'm like, I have a whole other take that I got from my second mentor, Alan Nation. He said, Ty, do not do what you love for a business. I was like, what do you mean? Because that's counter to everything, every movie, every cheeseball, novel, TV. It's like,
Follow your passion.
do what you love. Now, here's the deal. This is what he said. He said, what most people call love is really lust, right?
Yeah.
A guy meets a girl. It's like, oh, I love this girl. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with lust because lust is an evolutionary adapted purpose. It serves to get you, like a guy, he sees a girl, he feels a level of lust. It's not like you should remove lust. That's not a character flaw. What lust does is it makes you have enough energy to invest to hopefully find out if there's more potential. But that's what lust is there for, L-U-S-T. It's got to become a bad word. But if you marry around lust, 20 years from now, if you ask any couple that married, it's not exactly the same as when they first saw each other. So what Alan Nation said, don't do what you love, because the second you marry your life to it, you won't love or lust after it. He said, do what you like, which he meant kind of like you should marry a girl or a guy, if you're a woman listening, that you also have a friendship with. Because 15 years into that thing, it's not going to feel like the same that it did the first time you saw each other.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So it's like expectations, right?
Yeah, but
So how
realistic.
crazy yeah,
No
realistic
dude
expectations.
and no woman feels exactly the same as they met when they're high school sweethearts as they do when they're 85.
Yeah.
So what makes marriages stay together or friendships stay together is when you have stuff in common with them. And so what you should do for your career is what you like. And I didn't believe this, of course. Many instances when I look back, my mentors who were like 60 and I was 18, I'm like, what do they know? And they turned out, believe it or not, they turned out to know something. Not all older people know what they're talking about, but these were the very cream of the crop, intelligent and experienced dudes. And so I used to love salsa dancing. Man, I got into salsa dance phase, became like a professional salsa dancer. I was salsa 3-4 times a night, and then I was like, do what you love, do what you love. So I got in the nightclub business. I turned one of the nightclub business into like a salsa dancing club. That was, I can remember the date. It was like, I don't remember the day. It was like August 04. That is almost the last time I ever went salsa dancing again. Once I had it for a business, it was like, do I want to do this not when I'm not working? Now I'm going to, do something else. So you have to be careful, because sometimes the stuff you love can just stay a recreational thing. It doesn't have to be your career. Now, because when we get more nuanced, Picasso said, beware the dichotomy of doing what you don't love in your day job so you can have enough money to do what you do love. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying your life should be built around stuff you have affinity for, natural affinity. For example, let's say Kobe Bryant sitting in this chair, or Michael Jordan. 6'6", 190 pounds, highly coordinated. Kobe Bryant's dad was a pro basketball player. Joe Jellybean Johnson was his name. Kobe said 6 years old, grew up around basketball. His dad playing in Italy. He speaks Italian. He's super coordinated, like I said. 6'6", 6'7", not like stocky, because basketball not. So what do you think Kobe Bryant should do? What's a natural destiny? It's that. If Kobe Bryant started being a power lifter, it would be building on weakness. Yet, Kobe, though, still lifts weights. So he rounds himself out, but he builds the core of his life around natural affinity. So everybody watching this, you gotta go, what's my natural affinity? I should do that 80% of my life. The other 20% of your life is fixing your weaknesses to the point you have no Achilles heel. Everybody know Achilles, the story? Had all the armor on in the world, but the one chink in the armor. That's where the arrow will hit you. And it will. Look at business. Man, I meet entrepreneurs all the time. They're good at everything except hiring people. So they hire the wrong person. The person gets mad and just sabotages the whole business. I'm like, well, you didn't know how to read people. That's a skill you have to develop. So everybody watching this, everybody here, you got to ask yourself, and this is a scary thing to do. It's like with health. The scariest thing everybody can do in the world physically with physical fitness And I wish everybody in America did this. You take off all your clothes, you go in you stand in the bathroom, and you look at yourself in the mirror.
Every night.
Jump up and down naked.
If you bend, you look at yourself every
Man,
night.
man,
It's easy for me. Most people.
man does it 3 times a day. No, but you look at yourself in the mirror, and everything you need to know about life is told to you right there in the mirror. You're like, my strengths, my weaknesses, my natural affinities. Like I told Renee. Renee's like a big dude naturally. So I was like, Renee, you should be a power lifter, man. You should lift low reps, high weight. That's your natural thing. Whereas, you know, you're more lean. You're more like built to do long distance running or whatever, something like that. But at the same time, you still have to probably put on a little muscle, and Renee maybe wants to be a little bit leaner. It's like that balance, but you still build around the core thing.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, questions, disagreements?
We were actually talking about this earlier, and like for me, yeah, I'm a hard gainer. So for me at the gym, I'm trying to lift the heaviest to put the muscle on, whereas I know friends that are like, they're naturally big and they're trying to lift light and do lots and lots of reps. So they're focusing on their weakness and I'm focusing on mine.
But if you became, like for your long-term physical goals, you should not try to compete sumo. You will never be able, there's a limit to the bounds. And the good news is that's not a character flaw to not be a sumo wrestler.
It's probably healthy.
It's probably healthy to not be a sumo wrestler, right? Although one of the top sumo wrestlers is not that fat. One of the top guys, I forget his name. My dad used to watch sumo. I didn't grow up with my dad, but few memories of my dad is in 3 in the morning. He's like, Tai, come watch sumo. What? So you said, you posted this video that I did on how to read a book in 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
Right. So I was saying that video is not quite, I don't know how it got out every once in a while. One of my business partners, John Dewar, said never video anything you don't want the world to see, because once in a while that'll get out. Ask Kim Kardashian. Although maybe she wanted it to be seen. It might have been a careful boy. So we recorded that as like a test, and I don't know who got a hold of it and put it live, but a lot of people saw it. So here's my thing on reading. So most people major and minors in minors. So being able to literally speed read is a minor skill. Here's what the most major skill everybody should have. And remember, that's the misweighting bias and the 25 cognitive biases. Most humans down there on Sunset Boulevard, this is what they're thinking about right now, seriously. 99% of people down there, they're going, I wonder if that shirt I'm wearing looks pretty good. Or other people are like, should I get this Starbucks coffee or that one? Or, in 3 months, should I take my vacation to Bahamas or Disneyland? What they're not thinking about, which is the more important question, is why does my life suck and how can I fix it? Seriously, I don't mean that in a disparaging way. What should you spend most of your time thinking about? Stuff that's really relevant to the long. Whether you buy a coffee or whether you buy a red car or a black car, these are the things people fixate on. Should I get this digital camera? Should I get this flat screen TV? 20 years from now, you will not remember the outcome of those decisions. What you will remember the outcome of is if your health went to crap, if you hate every day of your life going to work, if you never had friends, deep friendships and romance in your life, and if you never could attain happiness. So most of everybody here today, I hope the people that work with me, is spent predominantly pondering the majors. And then if you have any time left, any glycogen left in your brain at 9:15 before you go to bed at 9:30, or maybe that's early here, 12, before you go to bed at 12:30, then you go, I wonder what shirt I should wear tomorrow. And this is one of the things, now this is gonna probably get me in trouble, I have to edit this out. Unfortunate, and this is a societal thing, not a gender thing. It's not intrinsic to the difference between men and women, because basically men and women, for most parts, are identical, especially on brain power. Men and women are the same for the most part. There's very little difference. Women get sold a bunch of goods by the world, and the reason I think, because someone asked me, and this is a response to the question, 440 self-made billionaires in the world. 7 of them are women. And I think that's 440, 450. So about 99% are men. So they were asking me, why do they think that is? So there's different theories. One theory is that men have more testosterone, so that they will be naturally more aggressive and take more risks. And oftentimes people that make a lot of money took risks. Women, because they're more valuable. Basically, guys, bad news for us, definitely not that valuable. All of America could go on with like 100 guys, right? Men produce enough sperm to, like, one dude can repopulate a planet. Obviously you wouldn't want that many because you have inbreed. No, you have inbreed. So if one dude, so you need a large enough pool, but men are not that valuable. So men have to take, this is Dr. David Buss. If you haven't read in my book of the day, again, another book I can't find right now, is Evolutionary Psychology by Dr. David Buss. Women are always going to be more important. So what do men do to compensate for that? They have to take huge risks, and most men take the risks and disappear off the planet. They drive the motorcycle 500 miles an hour. You know, like Futurama, it says all men exist, all civilization exists so men can show off to the opposite sex, and sometimes to the same sex, they say. So the reason guys do stupid stuff, for the most part, is some display. Why guys try to make money. So women, in this one theory of why there's only 7 self-made billionaires or whatever, is that women don't need to take the risks. Okay? I think there's probably some biological truth. The people who did that theory are pretty smart. I think more important than that is what's called social memes. So it's just bullshit. There's no reason. And in fact, women who have the same goals, statistically, if you segment those women out, they actually do just as well as men in business. That's been studied. So women who have the same ambitions as men, they compete just as well. So, the reason what our society does and media does is tricks men into certain mistakes and then women into certain one, and one of them is women fixate because of society on minors. You know, how you look is important, obviously, as a man or woman when it's related to health, but at the end of the day, we're all going to be old. So what you don't want to do is build your whole life around what you're going to look like from 18 to 25, because guess what? What happens when you're 25 and one day old? So I think there's a lie that society has put on. There's certain lies for men and certain lies for women. So that's an example of misweighting bias. If Maya, my cousin here, every day I told her, it's like, all you should worry about is brushing your hair and how much makeup you have on. And she bought into that lie. She would spend all day doing that and forget about the majors. The majors are like, are you healthy? Are you wealthy? Are you have love in your life? And are you happy? But if you watch TV, 2,000 ads a day, we average one we see. It's just pounding away at what these roles that don't even make sense. So my first piece of advice with books and why this is relevant is the same principle applies with books. People go, oh, you know what's the most important thing with books? Learning how to read it faster. Well, what if you read horrible books faster? Then it's actually speed reading is decreasing your life value because you just read 100, Harlequin Twilight books really fast, and now they're all in your brain. If that was your goal, I'd be like, well, learn how to read really slow so you can't get what's in your brain. So you got to ask yourself, what's the biggest major with books? And I do read fast, and that comes way later, but it's minor. The most important is, what books are you reading? So it's funny, this is how proud people are. Pride, ego is another conversation. I post the 100 best books I've ever read, and I've read a lot of books, man. You would think most people, now I get Instagram, Twitter, you'd think people would be like, dude, I read that book you recommend. Remember, these aren't my books. I'm not like I'm an unbiased person. I'm like, that's a good book. I didn't write it. But read that one. They come with the list. Got 10 books to take Ty's 10-day challenge, and it's the worst books known to mankind. It's like books, not worst, I don't want to bring up, like I was telling them, a lot of books that people love are not my favorite for different reasons. Robert Greene books, I never could get into them. Maybe you get value, I don't. What's the one book?
4-Hour Work Week.
Let's not bring up 4-Hour Work Week. What's the one, Maya, we're talking about? Think and Grow Rich and stuff like that. I'm not saying there are good books or bad books. It's hard to define what's good and bad. I'm just saying, why not start with the list that I give you away for free? I don't know. I mean, people are so... Alan Nation also told me, you know the good thing about life, Ty? As a businessman, you can tell everybody what you do. And the best thing, you know how a lot of people are secretive about their business? I'm like, shout it out so much and people will like go, oh. I think Kentucky Fried Chicken, instead of not telling the 12 herbs and spices, you know, the secret recipe, they should have like posted it on thousands of blogs and everybody would have been like, I can improve on that. And literally no one would have just copied the 12 herbs and spices. I'm serious. So copying, just copy the books that I have. After you read those first 5, if you're like, oh, Ty's full of crap. I read Selfish Gene. I read Durant's Lesson of History. I read Kontiki. What's the other ones I have up there? Managing Oneself. Wine. After you read that, be like, this Ty guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Then move on to a different list. So first thing, there's 130 million books. At best, you're going to read 3,000 to 10,000 if you're a machine. So a lot of the books that I see people reading, in my mind, is like book number 18,943. Which means you have to finish 18,942 books before you're allowed to read that one. So start putting limits on yourself. I'm telling you, man, if you do this, if you just block out your life and you're like, health, like I've been talking a lot with Mark. He's like, man, you block out your time to get in shape. And no matter what happens, you stick to that thing because that's a major. Wealth. You figure out what will create wealth, you must acquire scarce resources into your possession or you will disappear off this planet and never be remembered. Anyone who thinks money is dirty doesn't know that money is actually the opposite. As long as it's acquired legally and ethically, it represents reciprocal altruism. That means Bill Gates, who is, I saw he's the richest man in the world right now. He's done more good than all of us combined, represented by the money in his possession. And if you use common sense, who's the man who is eradicating smallpox? Bill Gates. Who's the man almost eradicating malaria? Bill Gates. Now it's not just him, it's his foundation. Who's the man massively changing education in Africa? Who's the one, you know, it used to be huge percentage of kids went to bed hungry every day. None of us did it. I didn't do it. Reciprocal altruism. $6 billion represent 60 represents more units. So anybody who's out there gonna give you a hard time about money, just know in their brain, forgive their ignorance. They don't know what they're talking about.
That's right.
So the third thing is, so you got to read books on health, you have to read books on wealth, and you have to read books on love, as we know, like Matt Lieberman in Social talks about. The human brain is all about relationships. You get that one wrong and you'll sabotage. In fact, Jonathan Haidt told me, if you use money and separate you socially, then money will hijack your happiness. But if you use money to increase social connection, money will increase your happiness. Money's a pit bull, dude. It's the best thing known to man. Pit bull is the best thing ever when you're asleep and like you hear 2 meth heads broke into your house down in your living room walking around. You're not going to be like, thank God I have a Chihuahua. You're going to be like, thank God I have Brutus here, sitting here, just like growling and pulling on the thing, and you're just like, really? What's that movie where Release? No, where it was one word to make the dog not sick you. Have you ever seen that?
Oh,
And he couldn't remember. It was like the word was like release, and he was being attacked by dogs. He's like, recoil, revamp, and retreat, and the dog. Anyway, so. A pit bull and money are the same. When they work for you, use them right, they'll save your life. When you don't know how to handle them, they'll turn around and rip your throat out. So money's a powerful thing you got to keep on a leash. And happiness, so you got to be reading books we know all about. Happiness is already, I see people, everybody, most popular Facebook posts I put are things about how to be happy and destiny. And everybody acts like we know nothing. We literally act as if 10,000 years ago when you broke your arm. You know what used to happen when you broke your arm? You would go to like one witch doctor and he'd be like, let me put mud on it, and he'd put mud, and another dude would be like, I'm gonna dance around your arm. Another dude would put comfrey leaves. You know what happens now when you break an arm? Anywhere in the world, even the most third world country, and you go to the hospital, they're like, we take an x-ray, we set the bone, we put a cast, it's fixed. But when it comes to happiness, how many things? Ask your friends what will make you. You got people chanting meditation stuff for them. You have people freaking telling you, no, love is all you need. You have people being like, money, dude, I'm gonna be happy when I have money. Guys, like women. It's already been figured out, man. Read Martin Seligman's Learned Optimism. You will walk away today after reading this and know more about happiness. It's already figured out. The beauty of the modern world is we have these new things called brain scanners. They can stick the human brain under it. By the way, they used to not be able to use this. You used to have to wait till people came in brain dead from car accidents to study the brain. But now we have advanced scanners. You can just, I can take you, put you under a scanning machine, basically show you a series of memories or images, and you'll know what releases dopamine, what releases cortisol. It's all been figured out, man. It's just like diet. People are still like, oh, I don't know what I should do. I'm like, dude, it's been pretty figured out. Hey, what are you doing? You don't need to chant. Money, it's pretty much been figured out. And even friendships and love. You know, I was talking about this. If you really want to be happy, and I'm going to go on record as the first person I've ever read to say this, which makes no sense because lots of people should have figured out this. Best thing you can do is find all your old childhood friends and fly them out and figure out a way to spend time around them all the time. New friends are good and old friends are better and unrecreatable. And that's what, and the stats are in on marriage. People who marry childhood friends stay married the longest, more than any other source. By the way, what is the lowest source? What is the worst source of a relationship being found in terms of staying married? Work. No, but think about it. You get slapped together with people that you have no necessarily like experiential memories with them, and you just end up marrying them because you see the dude in the cubicle next to you all day. You're like, not a lot of choices. Dilbert or whatever. But what and for not just on marriage, what makes you happy is what Jonathan Haidt told me is called companionative love. Companionative love is only forged through the furnace of adversity. Me and you haven't known each other that long, so we would be impossible for us to have companionative love. If we had gone to war together and he had saved my life, like I always tell the story of Alexander the Great when he was 19 years old, one of his first battles against the Persians, he was running into battle, and of course he was one of the king's son, so the Persians sought him out, and 3 Persians, one came and got him with the spear right through, but it didn't penetrate his armor, and but pinned him, and the second Persian guy had a sword and was coming down to chop Alexander the Great straight to the bottom, just right down the middle. And Alexander the Great's friend came from behind and chopped that guy's arm off, one cut, and saved Alexander the Great's life. Let me tell you who had a good friendship after that. There's very famous historical cases of people who have saved like presidents, kings' lives. There was another guy, I forget his name, one of the Russian guys, one of the Russian czars. He was walking down the street, and there used to not be Secret Service, and a guy came and tried to stab him right in the neck. And it's interesting, the same thing. His a general just happened to be, like a major or something, happened to be walking by and killed his potential assassin, and he made him the head of the whole military. So companionative love generally takes a lot of years to form. So one of the things you can do if you don't feel that happy, you're too isolated. Now some people, their lives suck because when they were young they were like isolated. That's a harder case to figure out. But anyway, all these thoughts that I'm getting from is not because I'm smart. It's just I was telling both of you, I was saying you want to know what's truly spiritual to me, not to downgrade other spiritual things, but major and majors. Imagine right now, each of you downloads right now in your brain, like one of those Matrix movies, or like Lucy, the little chick. If you saw the movie Lucy, you could download in your brain, and right now you would have the courage of Alexander the Great to charge 400 men with 4 men and live to tell and then to have an arrow through him, and his dad had an arrow in his eye. These guys went on to conquer the world. Everyone here has that level of courage. You download in your brain. Intelligence. Everybody understands the world like Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein. Third, everybody here has the money-making savvy of Warren Buffett, who at 7 years old was already figuring out how to invest in bonds. Or Bill Gross, who manages an investment fund with $2 trillion. One man manages it, about 5% of the debt bonds in the United States. One man, one guy. You download all of the empathy and humanitarian and world-changing vibe or energy of Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, all into your brain right now. Not anybody here not will like that idea? I feel like it'll be a good idea,
It's
right?
everything you need, yeah.
What's behind me?
Books.
Martin Luther King Jr. is dead. He is not able to do that, but he's right there. So when it comes to books, take the Mike Wright framework, download the consciousness of the greatest people first, and if you have any time later, then you can read book number 18,793. But no starting with Curious George and Madeline or whatever. Not you, Madeline, the French Madeline. I'm gonna call that the Curious George syndrome. I'm like, man, I'm gonna figure out how to run this business. What book are you starting with? Winnie the Pooh and Curious George. It's got some good business tactics in here. I'm like, better than Sam Walton's? Completely. He made $160 billion. Winnie the Pooh made honey, or whatever he did. I don't know. So that's my answer to your addicted to success, large following.
That's a great answer, man. Very long, but great. Very insightful. Hey, actually, you know what? When you're talking about some of the top posts, it's something I want to add in. You're saying like a lot of them are happiness. Actually, one of my top posts on my site is why successful people leave their loser friends behind.
Right.
And it's kind of controversial. We had some people go in and go, "Oh, that's bullshit. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be sticking with your friends to the end." And this and that. But the article is about like getting rid of negative and toxic people out of your life.
Well, I think the answer is it's what I said. It's what Aristotle said. You got to do it in the right amount. You don't have to go crazy with it. So I have two approaches. Some people are absolute poison. Get them out like overnight. Whenever I do that, it's amazing. There's other people that are good people, but they're just stuck. And everyone here, including myself, has been stuck. So you wouldn't want people to defriend you just because you're stuck, right? But it doesn't mean you have to spend 8 hours a day with them. So some people, what I do is I just decrease the time I'm with them, let them get unstuck, because some people gotta go through the fire themselves, and you gotta let them go through the fire, and then they snap out of it. And then you up your friendship. But I'm a loyal person, so I don't think you should cut people off unless they're poisonous. And then lastly, I think that you should follow this law of 33%. That's what I talked about in my TED Talk. So 33% of people are lower than you. But by the way, let me say, none of these people can be toxic. So even if they're lower than you in accomplishment, they can't be just pure a-holes. Everybody knows somebody like that. Really. You're just like, as Joel Stout used to say, I don't mind carrying a man, but I don't want him to drag his feet. So people that you're carrying on your back, helping, if they're dragging their feet, because you're like walking across the puddle, just throw them off into the puddle. The puddle will wake them up, and then maybe, or they'll drown. And nothing you could. In that movie, Lucy, it was an interesting scene. She walks into the operating table, and she has a gun, and she's really smart. She reads the charts, and the doctors are like doing emergency surgery on someone, and she just shoots them. The doctor's like, "How'd you kill him?" It's like, he was already gonna die. I saw it in the chart. So you have some people you're not going to be able to save. Or you need to let the teacher of last resort save them, which is Mother Nature, which is a bitch to teach, but we all have to have that. The second thing, so you take the bottom 33% and you teach them, or you keep them as friends. They also help you have good self-esteem, because you'll be like, oh, people are doing worse than me. So the second law of 33%, you got to spend time with 33% of your time with people on your level, because as Gandhi said in his autobiography, as you rise to the top, you'll get lonely. So you need people on your level, because that's what I'm talking about, companionship love. Those are usually your peers, right? Because like when you get the last 33% is your mentors, and those percentage of people usually are not your best friends, they're your mentors. So the last 33%, you have to spend your time with people that are 20 years ahead of you. And that's what most people don't do. That's the problem with the modern school system. What do you think's gonna happen when we put a whole bunch of people, 14 to 18, 2,000 of them together? You think a lot of knowledge is coming out of that? No, everyone's gonna become more retarded. I mean, I shouldn't use retarded. more stupid. How about that? More stupid. That's not even. I guess that's
The
right.
thing is, you're learning from teachers that
no, but that
you're
doesn't
making
count.
like less than a six-figure income. So how are you going to become wealthy?
Yeah, but
How are you gonna
even
become-
that, it's like you don't spend the role that the position that the teachers are in is more like it's like an adversarial role with the kids. They're there. The kids are there. Most kids are zoned out. Most kids think about when you're in high school. Some of you hasn't been so long since you're in high school. What was most of high school's about is about social interaction.
Yeah.
That's what you remember.
Yeah.
Your friends. Not many people are remembering
And
their
weight.
pre-calculus and weight training for Ben. No, but that's not. So the law of 33% in the modern world. You ask yourself. You got everyone here on camera. Ask yourself. Yesterday, 16 hours. You were awake probably. Did you spend 33% of that, which is about 4.5 hours, around people that are 20 years ahead of precisely where you want to be? Right? And the answer for most people is a horrifying no. Because, dude, most people don't even spend 4.5 minutes with people. So that last 33%, that's the hard one. But there was a time in my life, people are like, how did you get successful young? I'm like, well, I'd love to make some prideful answer like I'm so smart, but I don't think it has anything to do with me. I think there was a time in my life I was spending 16 hours a day around guys 20 years ahead of me. Literally, I was surrounded. I was like 19 and they were all 60. So what do you think the end result that'll come out of that? 60 guys that are at the $1 billion level or multi-million or changing the world or authors, what do you think's gonna happen?
It's going to rub off of it.
Yeah, man, it can't help. You can't learn less. It's not like you're gonna come away from that unless you plug your ears, and most people, you won't. You'll be overwhelmed by the authority bias, and it starts I remember the real reason is exactly like lifting weights. The first time guys do heavy squats, they vomit. Because like your body's not used to it, and people don't move towards things that make them vomit. Very few organisms on the planet, including humans, will be like, what made me vomit yesterday? Let me do more of that. We're actually built the opposite. Yeah, except alcohol. I like that. A true Australian answer. I move right back to what makes me vomit. Yeah, well, when you
It's like
get
it's the chemical bias because you're remembering.
and punishment bias,
Ah.
reward. No, chemical bias is in the moment that you're drinking.
But you remember that. You're like, that's what I want to drink.
Yeah, but that's reward bias. That's by the way. So actually, good point. Why does that work? It's because the reward of alcohol, people perceive it as very high. So the reward outweighs the pain. Reward can trump pain in alcohol. But anyway, the law of 33%, most of the reason that everybody here watching, everyone doesn't spend 33% of their time, it's too intimidating, man. And it's an affront to your pride. Almost everybody thinks they're smart. And so to get around people 10 times smarter than you is a natural implication like, maybe I'm not so smart. That's what happened to me. I remember you feel like, well, I was like 19, I never cry as a man. One time I almost cried. Like 10 super powerful guys were like, haha, you'll never be anything, you're a moron. And I was like sitting around a fireplace. I was like, and I was stuck because I was on a trip with them. And I was like, I want to escape. But actually what came out of it is I remember saying, I think I was 19. I was actually in Mississippi, not New Zealand. And I said, no one will ever laugh at me about financial questions. No one will ever say Tai doesn't know. And I became a CFP. And now I can talk to anybody about
It's
finance.
about ROI.
Yeah, somebody asked me what my ROI on I told them I started a business. Now normal dudes are gonna be like, oh man, you started a business, like your mom gets all like pinching your cheeks. Real business guys are like, what kind of business? I'm like, oh, it's a consulting company. They're like, how much was your gross profit? I'm like, is gross profit the same as revenue? They're like, you're a moron. And then they're like, what's your ROI? I'm like, what is that again? And they're like, I remember one of them's like, you're never gonna make any money, dude. And I was like, and these were guys that are like my mentor. Well, they were drunk, by the way. They were normally a little nicer, but they had been drinking, and they were just like, dude, you're never gonna be, you know how drunk people are like, dude, you're never gonna be nothing, man. And I was just like, oh man, this is the end of the world for me. And but then, if you're like Michael Jordan, you know what happened when you told Michael Jordan stuff? He decimated you. There was a few dudes like that were like, I'm gonna hold you to 0 points in the game, and he scored like 6. That's why Jordan, whenever he went to Madison Square Garden against John Starks, he was like, boy, I love John Starks. Because John Starks, before the game, would start talking trash. And there was a period of time, I think Jordan averaged 60 points a game every time he was out in New York. So he had that Alexander the Great syndrome, which I've tried to learn. Everyone here should learn. Whenever people are like, well, you will never be anything, you can just use that as a pain point to catapult you. Once in a while, people are right. So sometimes you'll like tell people like, I know a girl that's like, I want to be a model. I'm like, I don't know if that's your thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna go for that. And she's like, she'll be like, well, now that Ty said I can't do it, I'm like, no, in this instance, I'm actually right. Do not do that. No American Idol syndrome. So, anyway, there we go.
So the first time I heard of you was actually on a date night. So it was on a Tuesday, and we have date night every Tuesday. So we have alternate nights. You know, Joel will plan one and then I'll plan the next. And this one date night, Joel's like, okay, you know, this is what we're doing. It's just walking distance. It won't be far. And he takes me to the bookstore. Actually, he took me to, no, I lied.
Is this in Perth, by the way?
Yeah, this is in Perth.
Walking distance in Perth is like, what, 8 miles? Australia?
You got a pet kangaroo.
Yeah.
She got on the kangaroo gave her a ride.
They're like,
I jumped on my kangaroo and
3 days later, we arrived at the bookstore. I stroll outside. It's like
10 books in the
Yeah.
bookstore.
I know, 3 days later, you know, crawling through the desert, we got there. And Joel took me to this really cute cafe and he's like, okay, now here's the real surprise. So we go to this bookstore and, you know, I have like 3 or 4 books in my hand that I buy that I still haven't opened or read any. And Joel's reading this book for about an hour and I'm like, come on, I'll just buy you the book, let's just go. And Joel's like, oh no, it's good, I'm almost finished, give me 2 more minutes. I'm like, what do you mean, it's been an hour? You're like, yeah, you know, I've learnt this new thing from this guy and I'll tell you all about it, but I read the book, it's awesome. And that was it. And then he explained all
So it
about you
works.
on the way home.
Yeah, your techniques, man.
It worked. All right.
So
Well, it's good to know
so
it
you've
worked.
been part of our date night.
I've been part of the date.
Yeah.
It sounds like I was a part that ruined it.
Yeah, it wasn't the best date night, I'm gonna say. I'm really creative with our date nights.
It's just like, that's like a girl
It was like a video read.
Girls is like
party
roses fall from the sky while a floating table across the beach, and it's like, let's go to read a book. I'm gonna read a book. That's
And
like,
I'm
so I
gonna
can-
try out this technique.
So I can make more money. so
what was
then
the
we
book
can buy more
on?
things,
What was the book on?
It's actually called.
Was it in my list?
No, it isn't. It's
Okay,
called,
violation. Start giving tickets out. Violation.
It's actually called Unprofessional by a guy called Jack Delosa.
Okay.
That's interesting. He's basically like, you can just wing it in business, and that's what he did. And he's just like, he didn't go and learn, he didn't get a degree in that, and he was unprofessional the whole way through. But he's like a multi-millionaire, this Australian guy. So, yeah, so
And I think Jerry wine trial a little bit.
I want to try
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and I bought 4 books about happiness.
Were any of them read?
But you have.
I possess 4 books which I lay on my head. Like, girls put cucumbers on their eyes. Do you put them on to get rid
I
of?
just sit the books here and absorb
Yes.
information.
That is probably not
Look
the
at him,
best.
man.
That is not in my video on how to learn. There is no osmosis through the pages.
That's the secret.
So have you been able to
for
read more books now using that technique?
Yeah, I find it really hard on the Kindle because I'm
Yeah.
pretty stuck on my Kindle, and it's just like flick, flick, flick.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah, it's
Kindles,
tough.
man.
It's
Kindles are painful. What you got to do, like these books, just as a quick thing.
Gary
We'll do it
Vaynerchuk.
quick. Gary
Gary's
Vaynerchuk.
cool. I interviewed Gary.
Say hello to
Was he
Gary.
super low key, like very low energy guy?
Nah, hell.
That's how Maya's take on guys that freak her out. She's like, not very high energy. I mean, not very good. So you can take a book like this. So you gotta pass it on to her, man. We were talking, Renee was talking about, we saw that movie Lucy, the best line in there. We exist as humans to pass on what we learn.
Yeah.
If you not pass it on to your fiance,
Yeah, I want to
I
read
did
some
actually. Yeah, I
books.
told you a few
Read some
points. And I probably went like this. Because she's probably thinking about, I don't know, shopping or something.
No, that's not true.
that ain't no gender stereotyping. We just talked about this. We have to crush the stereotype. Yeah, we're gonna live, who knows, 50 years from now, there'll be 440 female billionaires and 7 guys. I mean, how about even? I like even. 220 each. So that's like,
Yeah.
well, cool. Well, thank you all for attending. You didn't come from far. You came from the office over there. Thank you for
I
coming.
trekked in here
7
3
feet.
days later.
And thanks for trekking from Australia. You came on foot, I heard, to London.
We did,
You
yeah.
can
it
walk
was-
on water.
It wasn't very far.
No. Good. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
Did
It's
you
been a
want-
pleasure. Hey.